Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick, here with you as always, and thanks for joining us for another week of whiskey reviews. This week, we've got another Throwdown for you. So, if you haven't seen one of those before, basically all we do is pick two or more whiskeys of similar caliber and category usually, and pit them against each other and see who comes out victorious. So today, we've got two additions from the Jack Daniel's single barrel line, and we have the Jack Daniel's single barrel select, and we have the Jack Daniel's single barrel hand selected rye. So, single barrel rye. As you can see, we got a nice little tin for the single barrel rye, but we won't hold that against the other one, which I do not have a box for, so throw that off to the side. But I've reviewed both of these before. Get some glasses out here. So if you want to see individual reviews on each of those and see what I scored it, that sort of thing, because I can't even remember now, which is probably good going into a throwdown like this, because I can start a clean slate. So, first off, we have the standard JD single barrel select, which has been around for a while. This one was bottled in April of 2013, so that one's been around for a while, that expression. And the rye, especially the single barrel rye, was something new that came out in the start of this year, which came after a rather long process of changing up the mash bill at Jack Daniel's and figuring out what they could come up with in a higher rye mash bill. So that was really interesting. We had the unaged rye, and then we had the rested rye, which I did reviews on both of those. That was really cool to see the whole progression of that process with Master Distiller Jeff Arnett at the helm of the ship. It was really cool. So, let's get into it. Well, first and foremost, we got to talk about ABV, because that's always the most important thing when looking at a bottle, other than what it is, and that sort of thing, because that's always going to be on the bottle. I guess we'll set these off so you can see it, but they're both bottled at 47% ABV, which is great. Originally, I was going to do the Jack Daniel's single barrel proof, but that wouldn't have been fair because that would have been a way bigger disadvantage of the single barrel rye because it doesn't have a barrel strength out yet for it. But I'm sure it's probably coming. Anyway, this was bottled in February of this year. And so, almost 3 years apart from each other, which is cool. So let's get into the color. Is there any real big differences in color? No, there's not, really. It's both this lovely, traditional, honeyed, amber, syrupy greatness that we've got going on. Very fall hue in there. So let's go in for the nose of the single barrel select. And the first thing that you get in there is just that staple Jack Daniel's smell, the really robust wood, those new oak casks, the charred oak, definitely shines through. This is really the base that I go to when I want to look at my, campfire type of palate that I like to call it, which is basically these really rich vanillas, oak, wood, a little bit of smoke, a little bit of pepper in there, which is really nice. And so that's what I call sort of the campfire palate that I go to. So definitely some good, robust spiciness in there, like pepper, if you will. Not like a green pepper, but, just like crushed red peppers or something like that. So, now, sometimes it seems weird if you do that, if it smells back of your hand, but it's actually useful in comparing the nose for 2 or more different things because, I mean, that's yourself. It's something that you can always go back to. That's a base. Really just neutralizes the palate. So, or the senses rather, in terms of the nose. So let's go in and let's see what the single barrel rye has to offer. You'll notice right off the bat that it's not really at all like the traditional Jack Daniel's mash bill and this palate that I've been talking about. You don't get the real rich, deep wood, deep honey, vanilla, all that sort of thing. What you get is quite the opposite in the sense that you get a really strong, or at least I do, really strong banana note, which is strange. And the first time, if you've seen my review on that, you'll notice that that was one of the first things that I picked up on, was this banana note to it. And it's really sort of a dessert banana, if you will, like a sundae. It's not like banana peel or overripe banana, which can get a little bit stringent, if you will. And definitely not underripe banana, which has got this real green, fresh note to it. But it's a perfectly ripe dessert fruit banana, like I mentioned. It's got a little creaminess to it. I almost say like malted chocolate, if you will. A malted milkshake, which is just strange. You don't expect those words to be coming out of your mouth when you're doing a nose for anything Jack Daniel's. Maybe if it were one of the flavored whiskeys, but even then you don't have those notes. You get more of what makes these good. So, the Tennessee honey. Yeah, the honey you can taste in the Jack Daniel's expressions, but it's not as overpowering as a flavored liqueur. And the same thing with the Tennessee Fire, you get the real deep cinnamon note, which is, the cinnamon is definitely present in Jack Daniel's, but it's not overstated like it is in liqueur. So, anyway, but banana is just right out of left field, and it's really interesting. But then again, just because it's interesting doesn't mean it's better than the traditional Jack Daniel's. I think it's got to come down to the taste. So, just get back to basics. A lot of what we taste is still influenced by what we smell. Let's go in for the JD Single Barrel Select. It's helpful when you're tasting these to get a real big mouthful of it, so you can really swirl it around the mouth and get all the little intrinsities that are going on with it. First thing that I get is, it's just the headline for this is Jack Daniel's Refined, because you get that palate, that campfire palate that I was talking about, but it's so strung together so well, like a story. You get this nice, not overly stated, not too powerful smokiness, campfire smoke, wood, oak wood, vanilla. You get a little bit of caramel in there, which is really nice. It coats the palate really nicely. And a little hint of spice, but not as much as I got on the nose. A little bit of the fruitiness, dried fruits, a little bit of apricot, if you will, but nothing like the type of fruitiness that we got on the nose for the rye. But it's that, and this is why I'm through my third bottle of this in 2 years, because it's so delicious. Anytime that I'm looking for just a nice quiet nice evening with some music, not a lot of distractions, you turn your phone off, turn everything else off, if you can get a hold of the single barrel, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And really, for the price, it's not, not far out of reach for most people. Let's go for one more taste. Like I said, refined, not overly powerful, doesn't kick you in the teeth. With a 47% ABV is really nice with this because with the charcoal mellowing, it's really stringing everything together. Of course, that's what we get with Jack Daniel's. That's the Tennessee process. But the Lynchburg process. But man, it's just so nice. That finish is just so smooth, and I cringe when I say the word because everything's marketed and advertised today as, oh, it's the smoothest thing out there, and that's supposed to just get people to buy these things in bulk and let the whiskeys fly off the shelf if you say it's smooth. But in this sense, it is smooth because we're talking about the mouthfeel. We're not talking about, oh, it's just smooth taste so you could just sip at your leisure, or not even talk about discerning between different things that you're tasting actually, but just the quality of the liquid that's going in. So whatever. But let's go in for the single barrel rye. Really interesting with the rye, because a lot of people will think, it's got a higher rye mash bill, and so I've had some Canadian whiskeys that were pretty high rye, and they were pretty spicy. But with this, you don't get a lot of spiciness to it, and I think it's because with the higher proportion of rye in the mash bill, the higher you go, it seems like the rye characteristics that it takes on are less spiciness, so to speak, but this really abundant fruitiness to it, which is really cool. And it's really great that the nose is directly influenced, as it does a lot, but not always, with the taste. And the ripe banana there, is really something different that, 50 years ago, I imagine nobody ever thought that Jack Daniel's would, stray from their mash bill, because they hadn't forever. And even 50 years later, up until, a couple of years ago, they weren't even thinking about revamping the recipe. It was just always going off of what they had, the mash bill that they had, building off of that, varying a little bit in terms of mellowing it twice through charcoal, and maybe offering it at a little bit higher proof, maybe even barrel proof, or adding staves into the barrel. But it was never about changing the mash bill itself. So I think that's definitely got this going for it. So beyond banana, what else do we have? Well, what you still have is a nice vanilla note to it that's really subtle. It's almost like vanilla extract that you would throw into a milkshake. It's got a really syrupy quality to it, and almost like vanilla bean ice cream, if you will, which, if you do it right, it shouldn't be syrupy. But you get what I'm saying there, I think. Or I get what I'm saying, at least. But just really, sometimes it's hard to put into words about this whiskey, because it is just such a shocker, really, when I had this for the first time, because it's almost like a dessert whiskey, for Christ's sake. And I don't know, it's just mind-blowing that Jack Daniel's can be something like that, because usually I think of Jack Daniel's as, my go-to evening glass, or right after dinner when you just want to settle down, something like that. But really, it's becoming, to me, a dessert whiskey, in the same sense that I think of things like, which I haven't reviewed yet, but like Dad's Hat, Pennsylvania rye, with their vermouth cask finish. I think it's something like that. Or Redbreast, 12-year, Irish whiskey, something like that. But I was trying to keep it in the realm of American spirits. But it's just, you don't see that a lot in the variations and the numerous distilleries and different expressions that are floating around in the American whiskey and bourbon markets. You get sort of pigeonholed into this flavor profile, which is similar to what, if you've seen a couple weeks ago, what I put into this decanter, which was just the Jack Daniel's Black Label. And you get those kind of notes that are just, you know, the deep woody notes, the heavy oak note, the campfire palate, like I talked about, a little hint of cinnamon, a lot of bit of caramel, and that sort of thing. But Jack Daniel's, the single barrel rye, is really pushing it into another direction. So I'll take one last I need to finish my sentence because I was just so ready to go after it. Starting to pick up a little bit more, and it's just on the tip of the tongue, a little bit of that peppery spiciness to it. It's almost got a saltiness to it in the spice. It's like sea salt in a way, which, yeah, it's strange, but it's also complementary of the type of palate that's in there. With these bananas and vanilla, sea salt almost seems to just add to it. It's a very, and this may sound weird if you haven't been to one, but it's like a carnival food, really, is the only way to describe it. Because it's got these really just sugary, really just makes you happy type of food. The desserts, everything, custards, it's just really wrapped up into one nice, neat little package. So it makes it hard here, trying to decide on a winner. Let's go back to the notes. Each thing was, you know, had very, I don't want to say prolific notes to it. So, the Jack Daniel's, what was in it was what we knew, what we've all experienced over the course of our lives and experience with drinking Jack Daniel's, and it was great. And with the single barrel rye, we got something new. And all of those things were really unique and that sort of thing, but there's not a lot to compare it to. It's hard to compare these two with having such different mash bills and being so good at what they're trying to accomplish. So that part made it hard. As for the flavor, I gotta be honest, and I think that the single barrel select has a little bit longer of a finish, and I don't know if it's because I'm picking up on more individual little notes about it. So I'm picking up the wood, right, the new charred wood, and picking up on the pepperiness, spiciness to it, picking up on the caramel, picking up on vanilla that's in there, and just a little bit of cinnamon in there. So we've got 5 things going on. And that with this, it's predominantly banana that can fill up like 3 fingers. And so we're getting a little bit of the vanilla as well. Tip of the tongue, a little sea salt. So it's like, it's hard to say because this is what we know and love. And it's great at that. And it's deep and it's profound. And you can make it last a while, for sure. And this, the rye, is a little bit more of a dessert type whiskey, in my opinion. I know there's probably going to be people that will lose their goddamn minds because I said that it was a dessert whiskey, and certainly the Jack Daniel's videos that I do get the most response and feedback because there are such diehard Jack Daniel's fans out there, and there's such diehard people who are against Jack Daniel's. And whatever, I don't know, if it tastes good, then it's good. Don't really care about all the marketing BS and all of the fanaticism that goes along with Jack Daniels, the collective bottles and that sort of thing. And I'll talk about, if I can get my hands on the Frank Sinatra Jack Daniels bottles, I'd love to hash into that argument, because, and it's probably why it won't happen, is because I'm not going to spend the money on that. But that's in a previous video. You can go and look that up. Some of my feelings about the Sinatra and Sinatra Century versions. Just the long and short of it is, all they're doing is taking a barrel like this, right? This is your Jack Daniels barrel. Let's just pretend here. All they're doing is taking staves, pieces of wood, and basically putting them on the inside, all around it. What does that do? Well, it exposes more wood to the spirit. Yeah, there's more interaction with the wood. Okay, great. Well, something like this is probably hovering around $40, I want to say. And it was just in a barrel, like this, just a little bit bigger. And so with the Sinatra Century, well, the Sinatra that came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it just had added staves into there, was upwards of $150, $160. And now the Sinatra Century, which all they've done is tout on the marketing that it's been hand-selected of these barrels with the inner staves added to them. And the representatives, when I had gone to a whiskey festival, were completely floored when I asked, why is it so much money when all you're doing is adding pieces of wood inside, and all that's changed now with the Sinatra Century is that you got marketing this as it's been hand-selected. Who gives a shit? Oh, sorry for the language, but I mean, who gives a damn? All they did was pick it out. I don't care if the master distiller himself went down and said, I want this barrel is going to be bottled. Who cares? If it doesn't taste good to me, then it doesn't matter. So anyway, after that long rant, I was trying to give you the long short of it. The Sinatra Century is like upwards of $200-something. Completely mind-blowing. So anyway, let's get back to the Throwdown here. You know, that's sort of what Straight Talk Whiskey is about, is just telling it straight up. When you get into the Throwdown, it's, you know, no holds barred. So, sorry for the language, but I don't really give a shit. So, we gotta think of a winner here. I think we need one last little test before we go home. Yep. That beautiful traditional Jack Daniels flavor that we all know and love. Refined. Very nice. Really lovely, creamy banana dessert. Malted chocolate fudge sundae. What is going on with my Jack Daniels awesomeness? I think we have to go with the Jack Daniels single barrel rye. That is the winner of the Throwdown. Number 3 in our segment. Looking forward to having more of those. I know it's been a little bit of time since our last one, but they're always fun to do. Whenever we can get enough things to put together in a category to review them. I would love if they came out with a barrel-proof version of the single barrel rye, so then we could pit those two together, it being with a single barrel proof, which is absolutely amazing. I highly suggest it. If you can find the barrel proof, it is so worth the money. Absolutely amazing. So, anyway, that's it for this week's segment of Straight Talk Whiskey. Thanks for joining us. And as always, if you're going to drink, drink responsibly, and we'll see you next time.